The problem we've got as distribution network operators and probably even transmission network owners is that we are not allowed to own any generating assets because according to regulation, we've got transmission, which is a national grid entity. Then we've got distribution, that's where the distribution network operators like Western Power Distribution, UK Power Networks, they fall under that umbrella. Mm-hmm. And then you've got generating companies who actually generate the power and the energy. Now, as part of the regulation, DNOs are not allowed at the moment to own in generating assets because that's a different operating license. So, although the appetite might be there to bring in storage, but there's that barrier to cross. And then, as part of the moves, there are suggestions that DNOs should become what we call distribution system operators, meaning that we can do a bit of both distribution and generating. But we are not there yet, but the appetite is there. Particularly from Western Power Distribution's point of view, we see that storage is one very, very important element we can use to manage the constraints we've got on our distribution system, particularly in the southwest part of the country, because WPD's got four distribution license areas: Southwest, South Wales, East Midlands, and West Midlands. But as part of the trial, we would like to see how we can manage some of the constraints in the southwest by way of using batteries as the management tool.
In the western part of England, that's where we've got a lot of solar in the UK, really, isn't it?
There's a lot of solar if you go to the southwest, a lot of it, particularly because if you go back to the history of generation, renewable generation started coming on stream from about 2006. And progressively, we've seen a very steady rise in the number of applications. But because if you think about the electricity system, it was built for a certain period and not much in the way of adding new infrastructure has happened. So the distribution system has remained pretty much the way it was. And most of the assets are pretty old. So we need to do something about that. So that's why, whilst the system has remained the same, but we've seen a very big rise in wind generation, solar power plants. But the original system has remained the same. And because the original system has remained the same, but you've got these new items of plant, the mechanics and the dynamics of operating the system has changed. And so we also need to change in line with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One concern I've heard about allowing the DNOs to kind of invest in and own assets like, well, not assets like storage, specifically storage, is that there's a potential for it to become into a natural monopoly or monopsony purchaser position. Would the solution to that be contained within that movement to redefine their role into a DSO, as you mentioned?
Yes.
And is that a concern you kind of heard about?
Well, I've heard about the government being engaged in some discussions around changing the way we might operate in the future, and that is a transformation from a distribution network operator to a distribution system operator. But until that happens, I'm afraid we are still stuck where we are.
What's really the next step to make sure that the next, can really include everyone in the best possible way?
I'm very much aware that discussions are ongoing in terms of moving towards becoming DSO, both from the government point of view as well as from DEC and ENA and other organizations. So I'm very confident that the situation will change, but I don't know when.
like a lot of people, I guess, you've been keeping a close eye on the smarter network storage, latent buzzard, the big battery.
Yeah.
Been watching that with interest, and kind of what's your thoughts on that?
Not just with interest. I personally went there to actually have a look. And you'll be glad to know I only went there about 2 weeks ago. So what I saw from that project is that there are a lot of lessons to be learned. One, in terms of how you can manage the system without necessarily pouring in too much money by way of shifting demand. So that is one very crucial aspect I learned from it. There are a lot of facilities that batteries can provide to the system, such as the peak shaving, voltage support, which is of course reactive power, and the frequency control. There are a lot of facilities that batteries can provide. So it is not just an item you are going to use for one functionality or for one function. You can actually use it to cater for a variety of services. So in my view, it could be important that we promote more and more batteries to come on the system. But we need to understand what is the capacity and what is the right location for these items.
Big battery is obviously it's a kind of trial project, but you're not always going to be able to build, a massive a massive facility like that.
Yeah, that's right.
In kind of almost what you call perfect world type testing.
No. That's why, from a technical perspective, first of all, you need to understand what is the problem, how much battery capacity do you need, and what can that battery do for you. And also, what you want to do is look at the future and think about overall how is it going to help you, rather than installing something today and then you won't need it tomorrow. So that's why battery is one solution, but in the long run, it could also be a temporary solution. So you need to have the right balance, because batteries can be used as a temporary measure while you think of a long-term solution.